Hello, I'm back with the third installment of Why Comic Books Are So Addictive. Um, but before I go further, I want to remind everyone that I put a link on the bottom that you can check. It's a great site that basically keep up the statistic of all the comic books that was printed and sold over the past many decades. It's a neat site. Uh, I have occasionally go onto that site quite a few times in the past 3 years or so as I discovered that site. But if you go onto that site, for example, if you take a look at Spider-Man, you can click on and follow through and see how many books were printed and how much was paid circulation. It's pretty neat to see that, on any given year, on any given month, on the average, they would be printing three, 400,000, sometimes even 500,000 copy of Spider-Man, and then it would be like maybe half of that is paid circulation. Who knows where the rest go? Okay, but I will talk more about the differences between paid circulation and printed, because I think that's one of the interesting topic to discuss later when we talk about scarcity, value, demand, supplies, all that stuff. Okay, but it's a great site because right there, for Spider-Man, you can see that in 1998, the book was the cover price was $1.99, and um, you know, if you look at the statistic that they post all over that website, it's talking about how sales in 2013 is 50% higher than 15 years ago. Well, if the cover price went from $1.99 to $2.99, it's not a shocker that dollar-wise sales jumped 50% in the past um, 15 years. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with readerships, okay? If anything, readership is even worse today, because if you look at the paid circulation in 1998, it was 120 something thousand per month on the average. And as far as 2013 is concerned, I think the best-selling Spider-Man title averaged around 90 or 92,000. So it is shrinking. Okay, and I don't want to harp on that issue any further, but if you want to do your own number crunching, I'm a number geek as well as a comic book and sci-fi geek, so I found it interesting to look at all the statistics. But for the back to the topic of nostalgia in comic books, one of the reason that I focus more on collecting raw comic books instead of slabs was because I love the smell, the touch, the feel of it, because all those things bring back the greatest memory for me as far as comic books in the 80s when I was buying American comic books. So it's, to me, that's an age of innocence where back in the 80s when I was buying comic books, what they could be worth down the road has really not entered my mindset as far as collecting. Um, you know, I have always been a high grade collector from the very get-go. When I buy my very first book off the rack, you saw the first copy, Iron Man 150, that I have, that I hold around. You see how well that stayed in shape as much as I have read it over the past 30-40 years. So so I have always been very careful. uh, I always want to buy the best copy I can find, and that was part of the fun. It's funny because back then in the 80s when I was buying comic books, my close friend Guy was almost the opposite. We can go to the store together. I would buy one book and spend so much time finding the perfect copy, being very careful with my book. Guy, the opposite. He would, just if the new issue of Justice League would come out, he would just grab it, go to the front, pay the 50 cents, whatever it was, and he would fold it right in half and tuck it right in his back pocket along with his comb. He does it every time. So he has zero care for taking care of his stuff. If you go to, when I went to his apartment and all the books was everywhere on a dining room table, so many of them have water damage, food stain, you name it. He didn't care. That was not why he buy comic books. He bought them purely for the joy of reading them, and I think that's a great, and I have no problem with it. I thought it was a great way that he handled things because when I go to his house, I don't have to be extra careful, even though I'm always careful with everybody else's books. But if I spill a little water on something, not a big deal. It's he used he used comic books, his coaster on the coffee table at his apartment, so they all have the water damage. And that's looking back at those early years, what the fond memory I had is just the innocence of it. I didn't care about the worth, I didn't care about value, I didn't care about if I'm gonna get rich off the book. And I think that's the aspect of collecting that I don't really enjoy. I understand the mindset. Just about everything from Beanie Babies to baseball card to comic. There's always a monetary aspect of collecting, and it's for many people. A lot of people collect for monetary reason, and that's okay. If that's what makes them happy, not a biggie. For me, it has always been more about the books and what I wanted and what I find enjoying, what I want to enjoy, and so more and more as I get older now, I care more about buying something that I want, something I want to read, something I want to have, and not so much if the book will be appreciating more and more. I'm quite certain that the X-Men 94 that I have in a slab, if I sell it today, I will lose money, as well as the giant size X-Men #1 that I have. If I sell it today, I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna make any money on it. But I look at what I paid and what it's worth today. The differences is, I call it enjoyment. It's the cost of enjoyment. So I had these books for all these years, and I enjoy it. It's like a form of entertainment. So if it goes down in value, it's not like I throw money away. I have these books still, and I enjoy having them. So it's not a big deal. And that's part of the reason why I collect raw comic books, because I think it brought back the memories and the attitude that don't put too much. I don't put too much emphasis on value and worth. Sure, the market has its own way of determining what something is worth, and if you collect comic books, anyone that collect comic books for 30 years or 20 years, like I have, as many of you have, the topic of what something is worth is always brought up from time to time, and I have no idea. I can tell you that I only own like I think 6 price guide in the 30 years plus that I've been involved with comic books, because knowing if something is worth X dollar is not all that important to me. Sure, I have books in my collection that consider valuable, that likely will appreciate value, but for the majority of what I have, I'm pretty sure they are not going to make me rich. Okay, so I just don't want money to be the primary guidance of what I'm buying or what I'm collecting. And for some people that's different. Some people focus on buying books that they want to appreciate, they want to make money, they want to know that they're not wasting money on comic books, and that's fine too. It's like I said, one of the things that also come back to nostalgia is, in the early days of collecting, as I talked already, that I don't care about I didn't pay much attention about value, worth down the road. Also, I didn't care much about what other people collected. I know what made me happy. My best friend Guy bought different things than I did. We collect completely different things. We love comic books. We can talk about comic books still daily, on a daily basis, and it was fine. I didn't care about what he collected, and vice versa, and the same thing with other people. This is what I'm buying. This is what I want to enjoy. This is what makes me happy, and that's it. And I think one of the problem with any hobby is, I think, as I have gotten older, I have met many other collectors, and I think as we get older, there are more emphasis on competition, and that's always kind of saddened me, in that I see a lot of people competing for books as if it's like some kind of prize at the end, like you're gonna have the greatest collection, the biggest collection, the best looking collection or something. And that was not, I'm almost certain that for most of you that watching this video, that I've been collecting for 20, 30, or 40 years, that was not in your mindset. You might have been a completist from the start, like I was. When I started out, I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I can have all the X-Men in the world. But I don't think the phrase "I want to have the best X-Men collection in the world" ever entered my mind. And so as of today, with the advent of slabbing and the CGC registry, with everyone competing to be with all the ranking stuff that they have, that's just not an aspect of the hobby that I enjoy. I can tell you that I'm much happier today, in the past year and a half or so, as I come to a realization that I don't like to collect slabs. I don't care for the registry that CGC has, and I focus more on what make me happy when I collect and what I'm buying, instead of like treat it as some kind of competition or contest. And I said it many times to people, collecting is a lifelong hobby. This is not a race to the end of anything. There is no prize when we die eventually. It's nothing. Okay. On my deathbed, I have said this many times to many people. The last thing that I will be sitting around and think about is, oh, I'm so happy I got a full run of X-Men. Hopefully, when the time comes, I will be spending my time reflecting on the great memories with my friend, my family, my son, all the good memories that this life has provided. It has nothing to do with any possession stuff that I have. Okay, so I think I hear this question all the time: what's a book will you not sell? Well, I can't take any books with me to my grave, so everything is for sale eventually. Uh, as long as I enjoy them, there's no reason to sell them. But 20 years from now, if I need money for to live as I retire, nothing is sacred. I don't have, as much as I love comic books, it's not something that dominate my life. I enjoy it, as you can see. I don't sit here and make videos daily if I didn't enjoy the hobby and talk to the people in the community. But it's not as important as other aspects of life, and and that's it really. I can't say enough about you know how people in this community need to understand that there is no two collectors that are alike. So trying to coexist with people with different tastes is never easy. We have a virtual community here, but unlike similar to any real life community, there are cliques, there are people with different interests, there are people that don't share the same thing, and it's okay. That's life. I think it would be silly to expect this community to operate in a manner where everyone loves each other. That's unrealistic. The best that we can hope for is everyone operate with a common sense of respect for everybody else. I've been doing this all my life. I treat people the same way I want to be treated. That's it. There is no other cliche that I live my life with. I just think that I learned to accept other people's differences and let it be. There's no need to feel a need to convince them to be like me, or no need to convince other people that my way of collecting or enjoying the hobby is the right way. It's each one of us need to carve out our own niche, and I think I want to close this series on comic books, why comic books are so addictive in this message, in that the hobby is fantastic, it's wonderful, it brings fantastic and wonderful memories from all of us. Otherwise, what is the point of collecting, right? I mean, sure, even for those that collect purely for monetary reason, they do have a certain way of enjoying this hobby. Otherwise, they would go take their money and go speculate on something else. There's always something else. Go play in the stock market or something. Who knows? But ultimately, that's what we all share, and hopefully, we all can learn to accept each other differences and coexist. I think that's about the only advice I have. Well, I hope you enjoy my series on why comic books are so addictive and why it is important to me and why it is fun. And I hope to be able to keep enjoying it the way I can for many years to come. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Bye.